Welcome to Mr. Brown's Basement, a channel devoted to sharing the craft of repairing, restoring, and modifying vintage electronic gear, and other random stuff. This video is about the product hiding in the box next to my Macintosh Plus. What's inside is something called MacVision. I'm going to unbox my MacVision in just a moment. MacVision sounds awfully similar to Apple's augmented reality headset, Apple Vision Pro. Let's see how they compare. First, there was no Pro version of MacVision, only MacVision. Second, it was made back in the 1980s when mega perm hair was in fashion. Third, it was made by Koala Technologies, which you've probably never heard of. And finally, it wasn't a headset at all. It was a video digitizer for a recently introduced product called Macintosh. If you bought this computer accessory back in early 1985, it would have set you back about $210. That doesn't sound like much until you plug that into an inflation calculator and see that would be about $550 today. But what was $210 when a 512K Mac in early 1985 was a staggering $2,795, which is about $7,300 in today's money? Let's open it up and see if it's what it's supposed to be. Yes, it is. Let's open it and see everything inside. Here we have the owner's manual and the digitizer itself with the cable attached. The floppy disk with MacVision software. Let's never mind the warranty card. Let's look at the digitizer itself. It has two rotary controls, brightness and contrast. No, there is no automatic brightness or contrast available in software. On the rear, there isn't much. There's an RCA jack for composite video in, a blank spot that looks like it's for power, but it's unused, and finally, a cable to attach to the Mac's serial port, ending with a male DB9 serial port connector. You might be wondering where this digitizer receives its power from. If you're familiar with old-style RS-232 serial communication, you know that serial ports don't supply power. They never did. Except the RS-232 serial ports on a Mac were not standard. Apple had their own way of doing things, so they did supply power, both plus 5 and plus 12. Let's get the digitizer plugged into the Mac Plus. Whoops! That's the mouse port, not the serial port. The serial ports are MiniDIN 8, not DB9. The Mac Plus is too new. Who knew? I need a Macintosh with serial ports that look like this. Okay, so we're going to be using my 512K Mac. So away goes the Macintosh Plus. I could have sworn this was the correct one, but it's not. So goodbye. Goodbye. There was probably a version of MacVision to fit Mac Plus and newer, but it would have needed to have a power adapter included because Apple's MiniDIN 8 serial ports do not supply power. This is the setup we would have used back in the old days.
Yes, the old one.
We would have a video source like a camera. It would need to be connected to a power supply before it would operate. The video camera was probably so heavy that you'd need to mount it on a tripod to keep it steady. The camera would scan the scene in front of it and output an analog video signal that would contain information about the brightness of each point in the picture. It would scan the scene 60 times per second to create 30 complete pictures per second. Oh, did I mention that MacVision is only capable of capturing black and white images, even if the camera can capture color? Yeah, this is 1984. MacVision would sample the signal as fast as it could and convert each sample to a positive integer corresponding to the brightness of a spot in the picture. These numbers would be sent serially to the Mac. MacVision software would convert these numbers back to brightness levels and plot a dot of that brightness on the screen to reassemble the picture, one dot at a time. This is the camera that I'm using for the digitizer. It's a Panasonic WV3230 camera with a Nuvicon tube. What was typical of the day was not an optical viewfinder, but a small picture tube that projected the image so you could actually see what you got. It's a black and white viewfinder, though this camera does shoot color, and obviously sound as well. There had to be a power supply for it. I'm using my own power supply. The output of this goes straight into the digitizer. I don't know whether there's a version of the system on this. We will soon find out. If there is, it will boot. If there isn't, it won't boot, and I will have to find a version of the system that works with this, which would be probably 6.0 something. Guess what? Happy Mac. It does have a version of the system on it. I'm curious what version of the system we're running here. Macintosh Finder version 1.1, which would be a very, very early version. No need to install MacVision. MacVision is already installed. The application's in here. MacVision. It is connected to the modem port. Everything's connected. But does it work?
Let's kick it old school.
I've pointed the camera at my Mac 2. Let's see what I see in the viewfinder. And do I see that on the screen? That's exactly what I'm getting. If you look closely, you can see how the image is scanned from left to right. In fact, it takes 6 seconds for MacVision to capture a single frame of video. I've added an arrow on the screen to help you see what's happening. But why? It's because MacVision isn't buffering the image at all. It acquires the sample and then displays it ASAP. I should be able to save this image and maybe even print it later. Okay. Save screen. I guess it's saved. Let's see if it did. Yes, screen 0. But I bet you I can't open it. No. You can save it, but it can't open it. I wonder what kind of image it is. It's a document for 14K. Okay. As cumbersome as this is, I think it's really cool. I haven't played with this in, oh my goodness, since the late 80s. I think it's real neat. Let me demonstrate what happens if I change these controls. This is brightness. What makes it very difficult to adjust is the rolling shutter effect, which I'll talk about in a moment. I love the texture that you get on the screen. Oh my goodness, I went too far. And the contrast, I just turned up the contrast quite a bit. Rolling shutter effect happens because the image is being formed slower than the image is changing. As a result, you get an image which is made up of slices of everything that the camera has seen. Let me turn the camera around so you can see me. Yeah. There I am. And as long as I'm not moving my mouth, I should be okay. It takes something like 6 seconds to take a picture, which is wild, but it's true. MacVision can do a scan that fills the entire screen rather than just a window. How long do you think that takes? If you said 22 seconds, you're right. If you think I'm going to demonstrate that, you're wrong. Back in the early 1990s, I did a school yearbook using hardware very similar to this. Each student had to sit still for 6 seconds, not blink, and try to ignore their friends who were invariably trying to distract them and make them laugh. It took months, but I was able to photograph all 600 or so students and staff. Some of my colleagues were worse than the students. I don't think I'd have the patience to do it again today. The last thing I want to accomplish in this video is take the MacVision screen image I captured and bring it into the 21st century. And for that, I'm going to use my Mac 2CI and my Intel Mac Mini. The first step is to copy the file to an industry standard disk format on a high-density 3.5-inch microfloppy disk. You may recall from my video on the Macintosh 2CI that this is my Macintosh 2CI. And this is what I'm going to use to get the image off this double-sided double-density floppy disk onto a double-sided high-density floppy disk. The problem is that double-sided double density, or at least Apple's double-sided double density, is non-standard and can only be read by a Mac or by a suitably equipped Apple IIgs. But the Mac was handy, so I'm going to use that. You'll have to excuse the flicker. That is something the camera sees, but I don't see it at all. The next steps involve copying the disk from the 400K floppy disk to the 2CI's hard drive. To make sure no accidents occur, I've made sure that the floppy disk I'm reading from is write protected. Doesn't look like it's formatted. I'll have to format it. Yeah. I'll copy it on. And it should be there. It is. This step could even be done with a PC, except PC and me are no longer together. Now I'm going to use that floppy drive on top of the Mac Mini to bring it into this century. Unfortunately, Apple broke the floppy disk drivers for Mac OS, either through neglect or negligence, about 10 years ago. So I'm going to make sure the disk is write protected by opening the hole. Now it's write protected. The disk is mounted on the desktop as it should, and the file is visible. The only question now is whether any modern software will recognize the file as an image. And I can get rid of this. I'll do it later. Let's see if Graphic Converter will touch it. Graphic Converter is a program that opens many different graphic file formats. If this program doesn't work for me, I don't know what to try next. Such a cool way they used to take patterns and turn them into grays. Fantastic. Anyway, I have the image now, and I don't need the floppy disk. Very cool. Okay. I'm going to shut down, except there is no shutdown in this version of the system. No, there is no shutdown. So I guess I'll turn it off. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.